Good morning, class. Today I am going to discuss the poor laws in Victorian England and how these laws set a kind of background to our prescribed text, that is Oliver Twist. So basically, you can use this lecture as a resource for writing an answer on the social commentary about Oliver Twist. We get to see from a close reading of the text that Oliver Twist opens with a bitter invective directed at the 19th century English poor laws, which was highly debatable in the Victorian period. Now, these laws were a distorted kind of manifestation of the Victorian middle class's emphasis on the virtues of hard work, which is very good, but at the same time an overemphasis on that middle class morality should not deprive the underfed, the underprivileged, the extremely poor. England in the 1830s was rapidly undergoing a transformation from an agriculture based rural economy to an urban industrial nation. The growing middle class had achieved an economic influence equal to, if not greater than, that of the British aristocracy. So, middle class had experienced a growth into upper middle class, middle sort of middle class, lower middle class, and so on. And especially people belonging to the upper middle class, they were becoming quite influential, as much as or somewhat equal to that of the aristocracy. In the 1830s, the middle class clamored for a share of political power with the landed gentry, and they brought about a restructuring of the voting system. Now, the British Parliament passed the Reform Act. I am growing very simplistic, but it is not a history of literature class. I am just trying to give you the background for Oliver Twist. The Parliament passed the Reform Bill, which granted the right to vote to previously disenfranchised middle class citizens. Now the middle class was eager to gain social legitimacy, social power. This desire ultimately gave rise to the evangelical religious movement, and it inspired very rapidly sweeping changes in the economic and political sectors. Now, coming to the direct point of importance, wherein it is getting very much associated with the backdrop of our text, that is Oliver Twist. In the extremely stratified English class structure, the highest social class belonged to the gentleman, the gentility. That is, aristocrats who did not have to work for their living. The middle class was stigmatized for having to work. They work and for that they get paid. They earn by their hard work. And so, to alleviate the stigma, it was a deeply psychological bonding between the middle class entity, people of the middle class community, that since we are having to work, we need to make the others, the common people, the populace, the poor people, we need to make them work as well. Otherwise, work will not be given a kind of moral value. So, basically, to alleviate the stigma attached to the middle class wealth, the middle class promoted work as a moral virtue. But the resulting moral value attached to work, along with the middle class's insecurity about its own social legitimacy, led the English society to subject the poor to hatred and infamy, cruelty. Many members of the middle class were anxious to be differentiated from the lower classes. So they were trying to form a class identity of their own. And one way to do this was to stigmatize the lower classes as lady and as if they are good for nothing, they don't work, they simply depend on others, they beg, they crave for money, but they can't do anything productive. So that kind of a process of stigmatization of the poor people happened at this time. The value system of the middle class transformed earned wealth into a sign of moral virtue. Thus, the Victorian society interpreted economic success as a sign that God favored the honest, moral virtue of the successful individual's efforts. And thus, they interpreted the condition of poverty as a sign of weakness of the poor individuals. The sentiment behind the Poor Law of 1834 reflected all these deep-seated psychological anxieties of the middle class. This law allowed the poor to receive public assistance only if they lived and worked in established workhouses. Now, beggars had a risk of getting imprisoned, debtors were sent to prison, often with their entire family, which virtually ensured that they could not repay their debts. Workhouses were deliberately constructed institutions so that it can be as miserable as possible under the living conditions in order to deter the poor from relying on public assistance. The philosophy was that the miserable conditions would prevent the paupers, the beggars who could work, who had the ability to work, from being lazy and dependent on others. In the eyes of the middle class British society, those who could not support themselves were considered immoral and evil. So poverty became a crime, which is very inhuman. Therefore, such individuals should enjoy no comforts nor any luxury in their reliance on public assistance. In order to create the misery needed to deter such immoral kind of idleness, families were split apart upon entering the workhouse. For example, husbands were allowed no contact with their wives, lest they breed another generation of paupers, another generation of beggars. Mothers got separated from children, lest they impart their immoral ways of living to their children. Brothers and sisters were separated because the middle class patrons of the workhouses feared the lower class's natural inclination towards a kind of incest. So, these things were not completely ridiculous, such things could happen. But, based on this kind of a biased philosophy, creating a condition so much miserable for the poor people, that was also very much inhuman. Meals served in workhouses were deliberately inadequate, and in Oliver Twist we get to see exactly such a condition where Oliver had to ask for some more food, and for that he was punished. Now, because of this great stigma attached to workhouse relief, many poor people chose to die in the streets rather than seek the help of the workhouse. The workhouse was supposed to demonstrate the virtue of gainful employment to the poor. In order to receive public assistance or some assistance from the government, they had to pay in suffering and misery. Victorian values thus stressed the moral virtue of suffering and privation, and the workhouse residents were made to experience these virtues, which ultimately turned into vices. Very interestingly, rather than improving what the middle class saw as the questionable morals of these poor people. The poor laws punished the most defenseless and helpless suffering members of the lower class. The old, the sick people, and the very young who were not capable for work, they suffered more than the able bodied poor people who could at least work and earn something. Dickens meant to demonstrate this incongruity, this inconsistency through the figure of the child Oliver Twist, an orphan, born and raised in a workhouse for the first 10 years of his life. His story demonstrates the hypocrisy of the petty middle class bureaucracy, who treat a small child cruelly while voicing their belief in the Christian virtue of giving charity to the less fortunate. And all this came from Dickens's own experience. Dickens himself did not have to live as a pauper, but he has experienced lower middle class poverty. He knew how it meant to suffer, to be socially stigmatized. And in his writing, we get to see a strange admixture of joys and sorrows, laughter and sentimental sympathy, tears for those who are suffering, who are the underprivileged. He himself suffered the harsh abuse visited upon the poor by the English legal system of that time. In England, in the 1930s, the poor people truly had no voice, whether political or economic or even social. In Oliver Twist, as well as in many other of his novels, Dickens presents the everyday existence of the lowest members of the English society. He goes far beyond the experience of the workhouse, extending his depiction to poverty, towards London's squalid streets, dark alehouses, the dens of thieves, the houses of the prostitutes. Who are they? The society could not provide for them a kind of valuable, gentle, moral, good life, and that is why they have been like this. He thus gives voice to those who had no voice, to express their need, to express their miserable conditions. Thus, he established a kind of link between social consciousness and literature. And this is what lies at the heart of the very significant social commentary that we find in almost all his novels, especially here in our text, Oliver Twist. Thank you.